This is CBC Here and Now.
Some of the smaller locals are affected. There's not going to be much work for them at all.
On edge in Corner Brook after the company announces a temporary shutdown and moves full-timers into the casual pool. That story just ahead. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain. 5 schools in this province have been put on notice by the English School District. The board is carrying out reviews that could see the schools shut down in 2020. The schools are from across the island. On the west coast, St. Thomas Aquinas in Port-au-Port. Stephenville Elementary could close. So could Pierce Junior High in Burin-Bayarn on the Burin Peninsula. And in central Newfoundland, 2 schools are up for debate: Sandstone Academy in Ladle Cove and Charlottetown Primary near Terra Nova. That's where Here Now's Garrett Barry was today for reaction.
Charlottetown Primary is designated as a K-3 school. Right now there are 3 children inside, 2 young girls in kindergarten and 1 more in the 1st grade. There is a teacher for the 3 students and a school secretary. The school district is considering that this school be shut down and the 3 students here be sent to Glovertown at the start of next school year by bus. That's about a 25-minute run each way.
You know, turning around and taking the kids back to sports after school because, you know, they have to come home on the bus and then you're beaten right back down to Glovertown to be in gymnastics or hockey or whatever the sport they might be in. So it's just harder to be involved.
It's not just these parents that will be impacted. There are other families in this community that were hoping to send their kids to this school. There's also lots of memories here from very early days.
Coming first in spelling in grade 2. That's been anticipated for a long time because the enrollment is getting down every year and everybody knows that you can't have a school with no students. So it's down now, I think, to 3. And everybody sort of saw it coming, but unfortunately, it's probably going to be for real now in the near future.
The school board has said that no decisions are final yet. There will be more meetings and further review before next March when a final decision is made. But here in Charlottetown, some are saying that a school closure feels inevitable, with few children here and some parents deciding to send their kids to a bigger school anyway. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Well, it came as a shock on Friday, a planned shutdown at the mill in Corner Brook and the impact on its employees. The shutdown will be the first in decades, and it has the unions as well as the business community concerned. Here Now's Troy Turner reports.
Quiet day in the mill yard, but work continues. As Corner Brook Pulp and Paper prepares for its 2-week shutdown, the community and workers are not sure what this will mean in the future. Unifor represents all but one union local at the mill.
We're just trying to answer some questions and figure this all out and hope to minimize the impact as best as we can, right? But, you know, we're going to try to do what we can and get through this and hopefully weather the storm.
22 workers will go from full-time employees to additions to the casual pool. And casuals lower on the seniority list will get less work. Also, the mill left the door open for more interruptions in production in the new year.
Well, for some, there's not going to be very much work there, so that's only allowing them relief work. Some of the smaller locals are affected. There's not going to be much work for them at all. So, you know, to say that they'll be getting work, it's questionable how much work there will be available for people, right?
The Greater Corner Brook Board of Trade is telling members to brace themselves for change. It says for every job at the mill, there are 3 more spin-off jobs affected. But the business group also believes the mill can be profitable.
Corner Brook Pulp and Paper's position globally is we're on the edge of the continent here. Makes us convenient for shipping. The dollar is favorable right now. The cost of energy, all of those factors bode well for Corner Brook Pulp and Paper in the future. We just need to make sure that the expenditures are kept in line and they look at diversifying wherever they can and finding new ways of making money there.
Now, Golding was quick to point out that in natural resources development, shutdowns such as this one are not rare. However, they are not common in Corner Brook. And because of that, businesses such as these here on Broadway in Corner Brook must brace themselves as people are more conservative in their spending this time of year. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, I'm filling in for Ashley tonight, and I have a lot of weather to tell you about. We're going to have a look at our weather on the way headlines. First of all, we have some heavy rain coming for the southwest coast. It's going to start tonight, but really ramp up tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, late afternoon into the evening hours, windy and mild temperatures for the east on the island. And as we get later on in the week, Labrador West is going to get very, very cold. We'll look at that in the long-range forecast. So just to have a quick look at how this system is going to unfold tonight, we're looking at some rain starting in the west, but this is the heavy stuff. This is going to bring a lot of rain to the southwest coast. There's a rainfall warning in effect. There's a wind warning in effect, and track its way east all day long until it winds up on the Avalon Peninsula by tomorrow afternoon. So I'll get into all of those details and all of the warnings a bit later.
It's definitely life-changing. It's a lot of sleepless nights.
I didn't want to know.
Was it done intentionally? Was it an accident?
We're still having a hard time with it.
Is there anybody else out there like us? How many are out there like us?
A family of 5 is safe after a house fire in Nain over the weekend. The fire chief says there's a lot of water and smoke damage to the building. Some volunteers in the community are holding fundraisers to help the family that had lived there, and they're collecting clothing as well as other items. A Christmas party took an unexpected turn at a local brewery last night. Police responded to an armed robbery at Ninepenny Brewing in Conception Bay South. Happened just before 11 p.m. The brewery was hosting a private party when a man entered the business with a sawed-off shotgun and demanded cash. The suspect fled the scene with an undisclosed amount of money, but not before some customers managed to disarm the man. No arrests have been made yet. Tonight with CBC Investigates, we have a story from Mount Pearl about the city's top bureaucrat. Steve Kent had a consultant hired by the city to do personal work for him, but Kent says Mount Pearl taxpayers are not on the hook for any of those costs. Rob Antle with the details.
Behind me, city employees do work for the people who live in Mount Pearl. But this past summer, a consultant was also doing personal work for Steve Kent.
I'm voting for Steve Kent on Election Day. Will you?
Bronda Aylward is the consultant hired by the city to work on things like economic development, a retired manager there and a past political supporter of Kent. Over a 4-day span this summer, Kent sent Aylward dozens of emails so she could process 2 years of his personal expense claims. Claims for more than 20 trips he took for Big Brothers Big Sisters and Scouts Canada over the previous couple of years. Aylward did much of that work at Mount Pearl City Hall, using city computers and email addresses during city business hours. Kent isn't doing interviews, but in an email he said taxpayers did not pay for any of this. That's because Aylward volunteered to do the work for him and did not bill the city for those hours. Aylward wrote an email saying the same thing. Kent says he'll be more careful in the future. Not unlike thousands of volunteers in our community, I occasionally receive or send email related to my family or community involvements. I will continue to make every effort to restrict my email box to only work. He went on to say this: I have worked hard on behalf of the taxpayers of Mount Pearl for my entire career. I have never ever misused public resources, and I never will. In fact, with the support of City Council, I have worked tirelessly to improve how tax dollars are managed in the city, and our efforts have resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. CBC reached out to every city councillor and didn't hear back from any of them, only getting this statement in return. The City of Mount Pearl does not condone use of city resources for anything other than city business. In this instance, there is no evidence to suggest that the volunteer activity in question has resulted in any cost to taxpayers. It's not clear whether this is all standard practice here, whether consultants who draw a paycheck from council also routinely do work for free to help out the people who've hired them. Rob Antle, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Well, Steve Kent has been on leave from his position with the City of Mount Pearl for a couple of months now. He announced on Twitter in early October that he was taking time off to deal with a personal matter. Now, for more details on this story, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/NL. Well, the Public Health Agency of Canada is investigating an E. coli outbreak in 5 provinces, including Newfoundland and Labrador. The agency says the source of the outbreak is likely Fresh Express brand sunflower crisp chopped salad kits. As of yesterday, there have been 16 confirmed cases of E. coli. One of those is in this province. 4 people have been hospitalized so far. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has issued a recall for the 315-gram packages of the Fresh Express crisp chopped kit, with a best before date up to and including December 7th. Now, this investigation is ongoing, and it is possible that additional sources could be identified as well. Well, from the spooky seniors who brought you a haunted house on Halloween comes a story with similar spirit. Alderwood Estates in Witless Bay held its holiday pageant last week, and our Mike Sims swung by and met one of the stars of the show.
I'll be 100 in February next year. February come, I'll be 100. I sang a Deste Fidelis. Now, I don't know if too many know that or not, you know. A Deste Fidelis, that's Latin, see? That was years ago we used to do that, you know. We did all kinds of Latin because the church was Latin. We said the rosary in Latin and we spoke in Latin, you know.
Led by the light of faith serenely gleaming with flowing hands.
The concept was an old-time Christmas pageant where you had jokes, you had songs, you had stories, you had recitations, you had music, you had solo, you had instrumentals, and that's what you're seeing here tonight. I think people find tradition comforting. I think they find it comforting. I think that people today, this world is fast and busy, and you can buy this and you can buy that, but you can't buy the things you had when you were 5 and 6 and the songs you heard. You can't buy those things. You have to hear them. You have to experience them. Those traditions evoke emotion, and we can't buy emotion. Emotion can't be bought. It has to be found and experienced.
For the most part, in these communities along the Southern Shore, music and family and gathering together, especially at Christmas time, was a very important part of their lives. I've been here 3 or 4 times now, rehearsing the parts and the different parts of the show, and they were all excited about that.
I think it was great. I really do. It was fun. Everyone enjoyed it.
We laughed tonight here together, and we remember those laughs. And I think on the Southern Shore and in Newfoundland, we're known for having a great sense of humor. And I think laughter truly is the best medicine. It brings people together, creates memories, and this group and my performing arts group can laugh at themselves and bring everybody with them. And I think you saw that here tonight. You know, again, they always attack these projects with work ethic that is admirable, and it's never just good enough. They want a pageant that was excellent, and I think they delivered here tonight because this pageant had it all.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And you too. Yeah, I'd like to get some Latin. I'd like to get some Latin lessons.
Yeah, it looks like they were having a great time.
Yeah, and a big birthday coming up to you in February, so good luck with that. Now, that whole event you saw was organized by Renee Houlihan, the Recreation Director at Alderwood Estates.
It's Christmas time in St. John's.
You're coming to the mall to get your Christmas gifts. Why not give a gift to the whole community? CBC's Feed NL Day is Thursday, December 12th. We'll have live music from Damien Follett and other great artists. CBC personalities will be here to wrap your Christmas gifts. And best of all, we're raising funds for your local food bank. Make sure no one in this province goes hungry this Christmas. And on Thursday, December 12th, we'll make sure everyone at the Avalon Mall stays merry.
I can't believe the 12th is upon us already. I remember started talking about this in the fall, and here we are.
Yeah, just time is flying.
Yeah. Now, I know we're going to get the weather. Oh, so you're filling in for Ashley.
I am filling in for Ashley.
Very perceptive when it comes to these matters. But we've got something we want to get to.
Yes, we have a video we have to show you. It's a cat video that's been making the rounds this past weekend. It features a family from Gander.
Yeah, and they thought that their pet had disappeared last week, and so what do? Of course, you go looking for your little pet. They drove around all evening looking for it.
Just my love. Come on, love. Come on, my love.
So imagine that. The entire time they were searching, the cat was literally right under their noses in the undercarriage of the car. So they rushed off to Jerry's car sales, and eventually, as you see there, they managed to get her out.
Wow, they estimate the cat, poor little thing, was under the car in the undercarriage for about 12 to 14 hours.
Looks terrified.
Oh. Lots of hugs and kisses, I'm sure.
That's okay. I
didn't know a cat could get up there.
Yeah, well, you've got 8 lives left, so save them. Yeah. So we're in for some nastiness, right?
Yes, we are.
During the break, Carolyn mentioned actually some good public service info.
Yeah.
Depending where you live.
Yeah, if it's garbage day tomorrow, you might want to check to see if it's canceled. I know mine is canceled because of the wind. So yeah, it's
there you go.
A nasty old day. Yeah. Not going to be hitting St. John's until a little bit later. Let's just start with a look at the watches and warnings. So we have a rainfall warning in effect, really right from Burgeo over to Port Basque up through Gros Morne. I'll break this down for you in more detail in a little bit, but there's also a wind warning on top of the rainfall warning in these areas here. And then as we track east, wind warning in place for the Avalon, Conegra and Burin Peninsula. So gusts up to 100 tomorrow, going to be ramping up throughout the day. So this evening, it will start on the west coast. You can also see some flurries coming through for Labrador, nothing too significant, but showers along the west coast. St. Anthony looking at a few flurries to start. Could see a switch over to rain. This is the heavier rain that's going to be coming through. Here we are at 4 a.m. So really not going to be starting a whole, in a big way until tomorrow. So tomorrow for tonight rather, overnight low for St. John's 3 degrees. So it's still fairly warm overnight. Pretty breezy as well. Gusts up to 70. Marystown looking at 5 degrees overnight tonight. And this is the rainfall we're expecting this evening. 5 to 10 millimeters in the Burgeo area. 10 to 15 for Port Basque. So as we head up into Labrador, some light flurries, some light winds, looking at about 2 to 4 centimeters for Labrador City. So this is a closer look at these warnings, looking at upwards of 90 millimeters of rain for the south coast from Port Basque over to the Burgeo-Ramia area. So a lot of rain coming down really, really quickly tomorrow. For going up the coast to Gros Morne, not quite as much, looking at 60 millimeters of rain over higher terrain. 25 to 55 for like the Bay St. George, Corner Brook, Gros Morne area. So there's a lot of concern from Environment Canada about snow melt in the mountains with the high temperatures and the wind and all of that rain coming down. So there's a chance of some localized flooding and some snow melt. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on if you're in that area and you're prone to floods. So for the rest of the island, we're looking at this wind warning that's really going to ramp up throughout the day, right over to St. John's. So this is how it's going to play out tomorrow. Heavy rain in the morning, 9 a.m. for the south coast, up along the west coast, and in the east, going to start seeing some showers as well, but it won't be until really later on in the afternoon when the Burin and St. John's, Avalon Peninsula areas will start to see that heavier rain. Looking at about 10 millimeters now, so not too bad. 10 degrees as the high tomorrow. So it's going to be windy, it's going to be warm, and it's going to be wet. Looking at 20 to 30 millimeters for the Marystown area tomorrow, and it's going to be quite windy in the Twillingate area, gusts up to about 70 there. Temperature staying mild. 30 millimeters of rain for Harbour Breton tomorrow, lighter rain for central areas, and 50 to 70 millimeters of rain for tomorrow for the Port aux Basques area, Burgeo area. That's where it's going to be really intense. 10 to 20 millimeters for Baie Verte. Still going to be quite windy along the strait. Some rain up there, some snow, 5 centimeters for the Cartwright area, 5 along the coast between Nain and Makkovik, and 5 centimeters for Labrador City. So that's how it's going to be looking tomorrow. I'll get in the long range a bit later.
Thanks, Carol. Well, as we've been showcasing on the show of late, for some people in this province, sledge hockey is an entirely new sport. And yet, hundreds of fans turned out in Paradise over the weekend to cheer on some para players. Sledge hockey has taken over the Paradise Arena for the 2019 Tire Para Hockey Cup. The national team lost a close one, 2-1, versus the Americans Saturday night. But fortunately, winning wasn't their only goal.
People here got a real appreciation for what the sport is all about, and it was really eye-opening, which is super special. We don't get the opportunity to do that a lot, so a big tournament like this is awesome for everyone to see, and it really brings a lot of appreciation to the sport in general.
I mean, when all is said and done, what we're really here for is trying to introduce that next young kid to the sport. Trying to, introduce that kid to the dream that I had when I was 4 years old.
Just 6 shots and goal through 15 plus minutes in this period for the Leafs.
The throwback at Mile 1 Saturday night, the Growlers paid a tribute to the former St. John's Maple Leafs by wearing the retro Leafs jerseys from 1991. The team also included archival video for the fans in the arena, and they heard a familiar voice calling the game. Longtime St. John's Maple Leafs broadcaster Brian Rogers. And perhaps best of all, the Growlers won their game against the Worcester Railers, score 3-2. Well, the politicians have taken a break for Christmas, but this politician made quite a splash with a speech in the House last week.
I've been in the House now just over 6 months, and it's not what I expected.
We'll talk to Leela Evans coming up. Well, the tranquility of a park, not exactly something that goes hand in hand with politics, but a lot of people are talking about a particular speech in the House of Assembly last week.
I find it difficult to actually sit through a lot of these proceedings where people, actually good people, rise and defend bad behavior. The actions of this House affects all of us. Eventually, the public tires us with the same brush. And I'm just somebody from the North Coast of Labrador. I actually was very, very pleased, and I felt honored to get elected. And to stand here and look at the behaviors here, they're shameful, shameful, shameful. I will not be shamed by the behavior of this House.
Well, Leela Evans joins me here in Bowring Park. Thank you for meeting up with me.
Sure.
So that was a speech that had a lot of people talking. Why did you think it was necessary to do that?
Well, I wanted to actually speak on what I was seeing in the House, and just a little over a week before, we had another issue along similar lines with Jerry Burns' issue, and I wanted to speak then, but I never got the opportunity. So this time, like I mentioned to our caucus lead, that I wanted to speak this time.
So what is it about the Byrne episode and then the Mitchellmore thing that got you? I mean, you seem really upset.
I was because I've been in the House now just over 6 months, and it's not what I expected, and I think government needs to be accountable to the people. We keep talking about transparency and collaboration and just working on behalf of the people, and I wasn't seeing that.
Right. So a lot of people might not know, but you left a really good, well-paying job to enter politics, right?
Yes, I did.
And you ran against your own cousin.
I did.
Right? Was it worth it?
Well, some people would say no. I was very disappointed in the government, and I'm trying not to be disillusioned, but I think it emphasizes why we have to stand and hold them accountable.
So when you were talking last week, I mean, everyone knows you're a progressive conservative, but it didn't seem to me to be a partisan speech. It seemed to be more about, hey, look at all of us, right? Because we're all wearing this.
Yes.
Right? Why was it important for you to talk about that?
Well, I couldn't believe that a minister would breach code of ethics, his own code of ethics, and be still allowed to be sit as a minister and not have the premier take a stand or his own caucus. Because if that was me, I would have stepped down right away. Also, our caucus talked about it, and if we had done something similar as a caucus, we would have asked a person to step down.
Right.
Just for the credibility of government.
Yeah. You also mentioned that there's serious issues. I mean, we know about the financial issues. In your district, ferry service, you mentioned people being on gurneys in healthcare centers, not getting the healthcare they need. What do you make of all this attention to the histrionics of all this?
Well, I think it's a lot of deflection, and what I started to do, because the boat issue is a big issue for my constituents because we don't have road access, and it's the way we get our materials and our food into our communities. What I started to do to try and hold government accountable, because I had no other means, I started playing the questions I asked and the government, the minister's response back on Facebook, so my people could see what was happening and what I was up against.
Right, and what's the reaction been on Facebook?
They couldn't believe it, because in my district, most of my district has been a Liberal district, and they couldn't believe that a government was standing and justifying things that was happening to our people with misinformation and deflection.
So is part of your strategy here is to sort of, for lack of a better word, shame them? I don't know if that's the right word, but...
Well, I think that's all I have left. I've obviously seen that, having a minister caught, breaching their code of conduct and still be allowed to sit as a minister, what else can we do but publicly shame them?
Okay, so the House is going to come back in 2020 in March. How do we change this? I mean, whether you're a Tory, a Liberal, a New Democrat, an Independent, how do we actually make this better?
I think the people got to own it as well. I think Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, you can't come election time and say, we want better government. I think they have to hold us accountable. And I think they have to hold the Premier of the province accountable. And I think they need to hold that minister accountable. We all stood up, like our two parties, the PC and the NDP, we went together, you know what I mean, on an amendment that was ruled out of order to have the minister step down. So we had no autonomy, we had no power to do it. It rests with the Premier. So I say to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, if you want honest government, you got to demand it, you got to insist on it. All we can do is try and hold them accountable. Right. But I mean, and if you don't, then we're all to blame. The whole province is to blame.
Harry was a great guy. Harry spent a lot of time here in our store.
Up next, we'll tell you about a customer who has had such an impact that one business is remembering him as they help out others during the holiday season.
I feel a warm meal is being able to stay together with family.
A warm meal means comfort.
To me, it means community.
A warm meal can warm more than one heart.
Well, this time of year, many people work hard to ensure that the vulnerable and the less fortunate aren't forgotten. And tonight, as part of CBC's Warm Hearts campaign, we have one such story to share with you.
Ever since I can remember, we've been doing the donation, and it just seems to be the right thing to do. And at the time of the year when everyone is in such of a need to help, it just seems right.
As business owners, we see the need around the community, especially in our restaurants.
You know, we see them coming with their grocery bags, and you know it's not coming from the supermarket, it's coming from someone that's helping. And you know what, it really keeps it in your mind to know that, you know what, people do need. And everyone needs a happy point in their day. And we hope that that's what we're able to provide. And us doing it on the other side of being able to get to the community food sharing allows it to happen. So it's kind of a full circle thing that helps everybody out in our community. Harry was a great guy. Harry spent a lot of time here in our store. It was, you know, the run of the day. Nobody wants to be stuck in their home all day long. He had a great family who took care of him. But he came here for some companionship. He came here for some warmth, to get a bite to eat. And, you know, he was always a, you know, a large personality that he came in and he'd always want to talk to you. So there's all kinds of people out here. Some need help, some don't, but you know what? We're all good people.
He was, I think he was special to all the staff that work here, all of our guests, and yeah, like, and we still look for him now. Like, there's days when you think, where's Harry? So I guess he made an impact on a lot of people.
You do, you think about people like that, you know, who you know you affected. You know, and that was huge, right? You know? Yeah. Okay.
Tomorrow on Here and Now, what is a food bank? It's hundreds of unseen hands passing food from those who give it to those who need it.
It's a huge, complex problem. I believe it's a social problem, hunger.
Food is such a basic necessity. You have to have it. You have to have it.
Where does it all come from? Who are the people in need? And how can we help? CBC's Warm Hearts campaign continues with a look inside your local food bank. That's tomorrow on Here and Now.
Well, staying with the Christmas spirit, there are many Santas on display at this time of year, though they're mostly white. There are efforts to reflect the diversity of our society. Lorenda Redekop takes us to one Toronto store that's exercising its inclusivity clause.
Oh, come here, dear Santa Claus, I can explain.
As you can see, this big guy in the red suit looks different from most Santas.
Black Santa is here and we need to see him.
He's a popular guy, here for just one afternoon.
I have been looking for Black Santa because I haven't seen one since I was little. So I went on a Facebook group where Black families can look for Black Santas all across the world.
The largest mall in the U.S. has had a Black Santa. This year, there's one in Edmonton, too. Here, it's the second year in a row for this Santa, along with his Mrs. Claus.
The amount of kids who came through and just willing to see, you know, another Santa Claus was just awesome. So when I was told, hey, would you do this next year? I'm like, yeah, I ain't gonna miss it. Does Santa Claus miss Christmas?
Even the slightly bigger kids got their picture taken.
I felt a little awkward because I haven't had a picture of Santa since I was like 3. I guess I feel represented in a way, just to see someone from my culture.
One mother drove in from a town an hour away.
It's a diverse world we live in, and I want my kids to be exposed to the way the world really is. And, you know, we're a family that is a little bit different from the traditional family, too.
Not everyone is so sure about him, but this visit to Santa is extra special to the parents.
You know, him being an African-American boy, I want him to see people that look like him in all aspects, in all careers. And, you know, so that was important to me. Even if it's just a picture and he sees it later, somebody looks like him.
Right now, there's a lineup that goes almost out the door. And given how popular this event is, the organizer says she's thinking of adding another day this year. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
You just pop a few more caps back into the tire, like brat, 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 brat. And yeah, you do that 4 more times and easy peasy, man, nothing to it. That's it, that's how you change a tire.
Well, the folks at the Outhouse are at it again, this time offering best practices for changing your tires. Welcome back. Before we get to the weather, although weather related, it was the first moment. So I have a driveway that kind of goes like this. So I stood there, and then it's because we're at that time of year, right?
Yeah.
Right? Bit of ice out there, and in St. John's it was like that. So if you haven't changed those tires yet, it's probably get going.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily, the comedy group The Outhouse has this how-to guide for beginners.
Welcome to How to Change a Tire. Step 1, remember that the snow is coming. Think to yourself, geez, I need to put my snow tires on. Then forget about it and go about your day. Step 2, repeat step 1 for the entire week. Step 3, wait until it actually starts snowing. And because you still got your summer tires on, you just barely missed 5 head-on collisions on the way to work. Step 4, you tell yourself, alright boss, I really need to put my winter tires on now. So you look at your tire, you get your tools prepared, and you call your baby friend to come change the tire for you. Hello.
Where are you at?
I'll tap Alder now, bud, just doing a voiceover.
Listen, is there any way you could change my tire? I'll give you a case of beer.
Yeah, sure thing, bud. Can you finish the voiceover as it does it?
Yeah, sure. Okay, first thing you do is you shoot the tire with the gun. And you just keep on doing it. So after you shoot the things a few times with the guns, you just take the tire off. And then you get a new tire and you put it up in the old tire's spot. And then you just pop a few more caps back into the tire, like brat, 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 brat. And yeah, you do that 4 more times and easy peasy, man, nothing to it. That's it, that's how you change a tire.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. And the proviso, of course, CBC is not liable for any tires that might fall off your car as a result of having watched that video. Maybe bring it to a pro.
Yep, good idea. Very good advice.
Yeah. Anyhow, bit of fun.
For sure. Well, the snow is definitely going to be taking a beating for much of the island.
Okay, it's warming up.
It's going to warm up for a couple of days, actually. I'm going to just go through all of the warnings in place again because yeah, there's a lot of weather coming, and particularly for the West Coast, it could cause some problems. So we do have that rainfall warning in effect for the Gros Morne area down through Port aux Basques and then over to Burgeo. Layered on top of that is this wind warning, so it's going to be windy and wet right over to the Avalon Peninsula. Repeating again, up to 90 millimeters of rain could be hitting the area along the south coast there with those high winds tomorrow. So a lot of a concern about snow melt and flooding, and as well for the areas up through Gros Morne could see upwards of 60 millimeters of rain in the higher terrain, causing the snow to melt down the mountains, so it could cause some problems for people. So looking ahead to tomorrow for temperatures, 10 degrees in St. John's, about 10 millimeters of rain expected tomorrow. Marystown, heavier rain there, 20 to 30, and then we have that heavy rain on the west coast. St. Anthony looking at a bit of a mix between snow and showers tomorrow, 6 degrees as the high for Labrador, 5 centimeters of snow along the coast here, and a little dusting of snow as well for Lab City, 5 centimeters expected there with very light winds. So looking ahead, temperatures are going to stay quite warm. We're going to have some more rain. Looks like there could be some snow coming in behind that rain. The east could see that mixture happening Wednesday evening. So temperature-wise on Wednesday, still 10 degrees in St. John's, as well as Marystown. Grand Falls winds are looking at 8 degrees, but chances some flurries there, and Corner Brook 6 degrees, and some clear skies for the Straits, as well as Lab City, minus 17. And I tell you, those temperatures are going to really dip down overnight in Lab West, as I mentioned earlier. So this is the situation as we get into Thursday, a little bit of clearing there, but then flurries in behind, and looking at clear skies across Labrador. So we have that nice double-digit temperatures for 2 days, and then things start to go back below freezing there. Friday looking like a mix of sun and cloud right now. Moving into central, temperatures dipping down there as well. Mix of sun and cloud on Friday. Cloudy skies set for this Saturday, and some pretty constant flurries and snowfall throughout the week for western Newfoundland and for eastern Labrador. Lots of sunshine to enjoy, but with that comes very, very chilly temperatures, particularly for Lab West. This is what I was talking about earlier, -30 as the overnight low. That's not including the wind chills, so that's for Wednesday night as well as Thursday. So we'll be looking at that to see how that wind chill is going to look those nights. But then we have some nice sunshine to enjoy and possibly some flurries moving in on Saturday. Anthony?
Thanks, Carolyn. Well, dealing with a vehicle recall, especially one with a safety issue, can be a hassle, but you wouldn't think you'd be on the hook for replacement costs, would you? So imagine shelling out thousands on a repair only to discover that there's a recall on the part you paid for. As Rosa Marcatelli from our Go Public team found out, some automakers are still forcing drivers to foot the bill.
That's the sound of the second engine Rick Lingard had to pay to put into his 2011 Hyundai Tucson after experiencing 2 complete engine failures within just weeks. He's on the hook for both, despite the SUV being part of a major recall that was issued before the breakdowns.
I'm out $8,700 almost for engines and towing and all that kind of stuff.
When Lingard contacted Hyundai about the breakdowns, he said no one mentioned anything about a recall. He only learned about the recall when he got the official notice in the mail, the one car makers are legally obligated to send. Hyundai didn't inspect either engine, but it rejected Lingard's claim anyway, saying the first breakdown was caused by too few oil changes and the second engine wouldn't be covered either because it wasn't inspected or installed by Hyundai.
That's really disappointing.
Donna Stewart and Scott Wild are fighting the same battle with Hyundai's sister company, Kia. The engine in their 2013 Sportage needed replacing after also failing at high speeds. Despite a recall, they too aren't covered.
Almost pleaded with them saying that, you know, how can this be that our vehicle is not on the list?
Kia says the couple's engine model differs from the ones under recall, and they couldn't prove how often the oil was changed. An automotive consumer advocate says using oil changes as a reason to deny claims is common but puzzling, since the car makers have already acknowledged in some cases the problem is caused by debris left in the engines during manufacturing.
So whether you did oil changes or not, the debris was already there.
More than a year ago, Transport Canada was given the power to force recalls, but it's never used it. So car companies still dictate when to recall and who will be covered. Drivers say Transport Canada needs to do more.
Transport Canada have told us unless there's a fatality, a lot of stuff does not happen. Man, that's way too late.
The Transportation Authority is looking into 65 complaints about being left out of the Hyundai and Kia recalls. Stewart and Wild's case is among them. The couple is now waiting to see what, if anything, the agency does about it. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
In international news, Russia has been banned from competing in the world's top sporting events for the next 4 years, and that includes next summer's Tokyo Olympics and as well the 2022 World Cup. The World Anti-Doping Agency decision comes after an investigation found that Russian authorities doctored and deleted lab evidence related to potential doping cases.
Russia was afforded every opportunity to get its house in order and to rejoin the global anti-doping community for the good of its athletes and for the integrity of sport. But it chose instead a different route.
WADA says clean Russian athletes can still compete independently under a neutral flag like they did at the Pyeongchang Olympics last year. Russia's prime minister calls the ban anti-Russian hysteria. WADA president says Russia is choosing to continue its stance of deception and denial instead of getting its house in order.
And here's your viewer photo of the day. What a gorgeous sunrise, pristine snow, lovely place to head out on the snowmobile. I'll let you know where this was taken after the break.
Welcome back. Well, to a Canadian tennis sensation, Bianca Andreescu has won this year's Lou Marsh Award, and that prestigious award is given every year to Canada's top athlete. Andreescu's year was a hard one to beat. In September, she defeated American superstar Serena Williams to win the U.S. Open, and that made her the first Canadian ever to win a Grand Slam single. It was an amazing day to watch that match. Still remember it. Today, she becomes the first tennis player to win the Lou Marsh Trophy, and that trophy is named in honor of a former sports editor with the Toronto Star, and that dates back to 1936. What a moment that was.
Oh, so nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and speaking of nice, sweet news, curious, cuddly, and cute enough to cry over, apparently.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
That's the reaction actually to a naming, has nothing to do with me. It's a naming ceremony at a zoo in Berlin today. Check this out.
Oh, yes. Yes, please. Cheering crowds helped celebrate these little pandas' good health. Their Chinese names translate into desired and fulfilled dreams. The twins are the first giant panda cubs to be born in Germany.
Yeah, they are kind of adorable. Baby pandas pampered in zoos around the world because of the difficulty they have breeding in captivity, and because there are only 2,000 left alive in the wild, and not to mention, they are just so darned cute.
Oh, my
Look at
goodness. Yep, cute enough to cry over for sure.
Beautiful creatures.
You just want to give them a hug.
Yep. All right, so you got a nice picture too, right?
Yeah, beautiful shot. Just have a look at this. This was taken.
I was going to say Labrador. I obviously would have been wrong.
Lewis Lake. One of two Lewis Lakes in the area, I learned. Just stunning sunrise. Thank you, Kevin Strobridge, for sending us this gorgeous shot.
Yeah, for people who like getting the sleds out in that fresh snow like that, it doesn't get much better than that. Nice shot, Kevin.
And if you have a photo you'd like to share with us for Here and Now, just send us an email, nlphotos@cbc.ca.
And don't forget, of course, this Thursday at the mall. Have you made your plans yet? Are you a rapper?
I'm gonna try really hard. I'm gonna look at some Google videos or YouTube videos.
So you're actually training.
I am. I want to do a good job. I'm not really very good with rapping.
Okay.
Normally.
Well, yeah, I will supervise that. But if
Are
you're
you a good rapper though?
No.
I don't remember you being.
only musically.
Yeah.
But I'll save that talent for after the show. Have a great night, and hope to see you come to the mall on Thursday. It's a great event. You'll have a lot of fun to see how TV gets made too. Last year was a blast.
Oh, yeah.
So hope to see you on Thursday. Have a great night.
Good night.